Hey, what's going on, everyone? June here with Hapa英会話, and joining me today is Micah. What's going on, Micah? How you doing today?
Hello, June. Hello, Hapa buddies. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good, doing good. So, Micah, I got a question for you today. I know you've been living in Japan for quite a while now, right? You have a lot of experience living in Japan, learning the language, the whole deal.
Yeah, it's been about 11 years now, so not a short time, but yeah.
So this is a question that I get asked by my students pretty frequently. As you know, in the Japanese language, there is keigo. And if you are a quote unquote gaijin trying to learn Japanese, learning keigo can be pretty complicated, right? It's pretty complicated to learn keigo in Japanese. The question that I get asked frequently by many of my Hapa Eikaiwa students is, are there honorifics in English? Does keigo exist in the English language? So I'm just going to throw that question right at you today.
Okay.
Micah.
All right.
Does keigo exist in the English language?
I think that's a really good question. As you know, Japanese is very famous for having a very complex, polite language system. And there are many different forms of words depending on the situation and who you're talking to. Like, when you're talking to your friends, the form the language takes will be different than when you're talking to a coworker or a boss. And this also applies to English, but it's a little bit different. In Japanese, you're talking about the honorifics, how the words themselves often will change, and the form of the words will change. This does apply to English sometimes, but more than that, I think what we do when we want to speak polite in English, we add sort of buffers to the beginning of a sentence, like buffer phrases. And these buffer phrases, they are meant to sort of soften the impact of what you're trying to say. For example, let me give you an example.
Perfect.
So say that you're at a restaurant
Okay.
with your family and you see another table that has an open chair that you would like to use. So you want to politely ask the people sitting at that table if you can use their chair. So to ask them politely, you could say, "Excuse me, may I use your chair?" Okay. So that's one level of politeness. That "excuse me" is that sort of buffer phrase. And then if you want to make it even more polite, you would add to that. For example, "Excuse me, would you mind if I use your chair?" So it gets a little bit longer.
Right.
And if you want to even make it even more polite, you could say, "Excuse me, sorry to bother you, but would you mind if I use your chair?" Gotcha. So in English, I think most cases, we tend to lengthen the beginning part of each sentence of things that we want to say to sort of soften the impact and make it sound more polite to the listener. I don't know. What do you think? In your experience?
Honestly, I feel like you brought up a great point. I think that buffer phrase that you mentioned really softens the impact in your words. And when I speak to a lot of my students, they often tell me that English is a very direct language. And when you want something or when you're having a conversation with somebody, it's very important to be direct with your speech. But for example, if you want to sit, if there's like a chair there that you want to use, or if there's a table there that you want to sit, it would come off as pretty, impolite if you just went up to a complete stranger and said, "Can I use this chair?" or "Can I sit here?" That's a little bit too direct, right? Yeah,
exactly. Or like, "I want this chair. Can I use it?" Something like that. It'd be a little bit too strong. And I think that's kind of a common misconception about English being a direct language. When we speak polite, we try to find ways to dance around or to avoid being completely direct. And that's sort of the main focus of what it is to be polite in English. So yeah. And a lot of things, I think one of the most challenging things for Japanese people in particular when speaking English is refusing something, like saying no to something, right? In Japanese, we try to find different ways to avoid directly saying no to someone, especially, for example, if you're being asked or invited to someone's party or something, and maybe you don't want to go, but you can't really tell them directly, "Oh, yeah, I'm not interested," or something like that.
Right.
Often we make excuses, just like in Japanese. You say, "I'm sorry, actually, I'm busy on that day, but how about next time?" Something like that. Or One of my favorites. Oh, I'd love to, but actually I have something going on, so I won't be able to make it. Things like that. So we do the same thing. We don't like to be completely direct when we're trying to be polite to someone. We try to find different ways to avoid that.
I'd love to. I mean, I feel like that's my go-to as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you hear that phrase in the beginning, when somebody starts off with "I'd love to," you know that you're getting turned down for whatever invitation or offer it is, right? It's always "I love to," blah blah blah, but, and you're gonna get a reason why they cannot go to the whatever event that you invited them to. So yeah, I think honorifics. I mean, I guess you can't. In Japanese, it's so structured, right? You have like the desumasu, and then you have like the kensongo and the kenjogo, and like the structure changes completely, where depending on, the age or your status, the way you speak completely changes. But in a sense, I feel like it's even more complicated in English, because there really is no structure in English. There's really no like one, everybody follow this rule. If you're talking to like an older guy, or if you're talking to your boss, you must speak like this. Like you said, at times you do have to be direct, but at times being direct doesn't necessarily mean like just a flat out yes, no kind of thing. You do have to dance around with your words a little bit to get to your point.
And as far as honorifics go, there is a thing just popping into my mind. There is sir and ma'am. But again,
like the Mr., Mrs., Miss, right? You got those expressions that we use. Or I guess if you're referring to like, I guess in Japanese it's sensei, but here if you are at the university level, you'll refer to your teacher as professor, as a way of showing respect.
Right. That's something I get here a lot. People will be like, Micah teacher. Like, well, actually, no, we do not say that. So just call me Micah, it's fine.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys found this video useful today. And don't forget, Micah is an amazing teacher on Cafe Talk. All of his information is listed in the description below, or you can go to cafetalk.com and find him there. Micah, thank you very much. I'll see you again.
Thank you, June. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye, guys.